Hello friends, this is Sumit Khatri from Govt Polytechnic, Nagpur, and today I am going to discuss with you the topic of Java server pages, which is a 6th unit basically in the advanced Java programming course. And as we all are familiar with the servlet now, because I already covered the curriculum till 5th unit, and what was remaining was the 6th unit that I am going to be covering through these video sessions. Okay, so before knowing JSP, we should know the basics of the servlet. So I'll recommend you to please go through the notes and the content that already shared with you, and we have discussed in the classes about the servlets. Okay, so JSP, like servlet, is also the Java technology which is used for the web application development. Okay, so JSP you can say is much simpler than the servlet. The reason being it's the Java inside the HTML code. So in today's session, or we can say in the series of the lectures that I'll be sharing with you, I'll be discussing on these Java server pages mostly, and in today's session I'll be covering the introduction to the JSP. So before going to the programming part, I'll be first letting you know what the JSP is. So basically, as we all know, as the name indicates, Java server pages. So it's a Java technology which enables you to write the dynamic web pages. The reason dynamic is Java adds the dynamism to the static web pages. So yeah, let's see the introduction part. These slides that I'm going to discuss with you, I have already shared with you. So you can refer these slides after this video lectures. Okay, so as the definition indicates, it's a Java technology which enables the development of the dynamic web pages. So basically JSP was developed by the Sun Microsystems, which was allowing the server side development. So JSP files, as I mentioned, are HTML files with the special tags, and those special tags contain the Java source code. So you may ask question like, sir, how can we write Java inside HTML? Yes, it is possible, and we will be actually writing the JSP code, and in that you will be seeing that okay, it is actually a HTML file with the JSP extension and Java code inside the HTML. Okay, so this diagram we have seen in servlet also, like there are some multiple clients requesting for a particular service in a web server. In this diagram, the server is a Unix, which is Apache web server, and it is connected through the internet to the multiple clients. So clients can be of any platform, like there is one Mac OS, there is Linux, there is Windows, and they are communicating via internet to this web server. So our JSP is inside this Apache web server, as shown in this example, and you can actually interact with these clients and the servers using this technology. Okay, so yeah, you can actually go through the detailed theory that is being discussed in these slides. Okay, so what is happening here is basically, as I discussed, like JSP is sitting right here inside this web server. There is a JSP and the servlet engine. Okay, JSP servlet engine. So JSP servlet engine is a special part of the JSP architecture. What it does is it converts the JSP into the servlet. Okay, look here. Now JSP is a Java code inside the HTML. So directly it doesn't run. What it does is, your JSP code is submitted to the JSP engine first, and that JSP engine actually converts your JSP into the servlet. That servlet is first compiled and it is then loaded and executed. Are you getting my point? So we all know the how servlets are executed, right? We all have discussed about that. So JSP is ultimately converted into the servlet, which is going to serve our purpose. But for the programmer, it is not a servlet. It is a simply HTML file, and you are writing little Java code inside the HTML. So how to write and all we'll be discussing in the series of the lectures I'll be sharing with you. So just for today's video clip, just remember that JSP is a Java program inside HTML, and also this JSP servlet engine displays an important role in every JSP program. Why? Because every JSP is ultimately converted into the servlet, which serves our purpose. So in this typical 3-tier architecture, there is a database connectivity also. So it's just an example which is showing there is an Oracle database. You can actually connect with the any type of the database. So why JSP? JSP, obviously JSP, because it's Java technology. It comes with the advantages of the Java. It has multi-platform nature, and you can use the components by using the Java. Means obviously JSP is a Java technology, so you can have the advantage of all Java technology. Okay, so multi-platform means you can have it in Microsoft IIS server and get it moved to the Apache web server. Yes, it is possible for moving JSP file from one server to the other. That's why it's a multi-platform. Okay, so JSP as compared to ASP, ASP is basically for the Microsoft platform, but JSP is for multiple platforms. JSP compared to servlet, as I already discussed, JSP is a step ahead to the servlet. Servlet is not like Java inside HTML. It's HTML inside Java. Getting my point? So for creating or writing any HTML code inside a servlet, what you have to do is you have to write the println statements for every HTML tag you want to add. Okay, but that is not the case with the JSP, and you will soon realize the difference between JSP and servlets. And remember, it can be asked in the exam also, comparison between JSP and servlet. So yeah, you can read about this thing in detail. Okay, so basic difference is this only that I told you. So servlet, you need to have lots of println statements to generate the HTML, whereas JSP is actually Java code inside the HTML. So that's the main difference between servlet and JSP. Other difference between JSP and servlet is servlet are faster than JSP. Why? Because there is a component called as JSP servlet engine in the JSP, which has to translate your JSP into the servlet, and then servlet is compiled and then it is loaded, right? But that is not the case with the servlets. Servlets are already available with you. You directly compile them and load them into the web server. So JSPs are the slower. For the first run, I'm saying, for the first run, JSP is slower than the servlet. Once it is run, once the servlet is ready, compiled and loaded, servlet is ready, then there is no difference in JSP and servlet execution time. Both will execute in almost same time, but for the first run, JSP takes more time compared to the same servlet, equivalent servlet. Okay, so JSP architecture This also I discussed in short in the previous slide. Like there is a JSP file which is converted into the servlet, which is then compiled and converted into the .class file, which is then loaded and instantiated, and that servlet creates the HTML output and is shown to the web server. So basically, if you have a JSP file inside the first for the first invocation inside the JSP engine, this all steps are going to be followed, total 9 steps. So how from request to the response, how the JSP architecture behaves for the user is web browser, that is your client requests through the internet to the server. This server has a JSP file, that is the resource which is of interest for the client. Client requests the JSP file. Now this JSP file is first parsed and converted into the servlet source code, then it is compiled to generate the .class file to instantiate and generate the HTML response, and which is then sent to the browser. So there are total 9 steps. So in the first step, user goes to the website and it asks for the JSP. User goes to the JSP page and the JSP request gets sent to the web server. The web server recognizes that okay, this file required is a special .jsp, so it passes JSP file to the JSP servlet engine. Okay, so JSP servlet engine, what it does is it compiles the it converts it first into the equivalent servlet, then it is compiled, then it is loaded, and then the output is generated. So these are all 9 steps that are there in the JSP architecture. This can also be asked in the exam for 4 marks, like describe the JSP architecture in detail. So you can simply write these things, and you can put this diagram also, and put these 9 steps or abstractly 4-5 steps in detail for all this functioning. So yeah, for today's clip, I think this is sufficient for today's session. So in tomorrow, that the clip that I'll be sharing will be discussing more about the JSP. So for now, bye bye, and I sign off. Thank you.